So, what could a simple magnet and, a priceless Iron Age urn possibly have in common? Well, it turns out they can both become these incredible physical puzzles. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to follow that journey all the way from a super clever DIY trick you could do in your own workshop to a high-tech lab that's literally turning ancient history into something you can touch and feel. All right, let's get into it. Just look at these two extremes right here. On the left, you've got this simple, really elegant challenge. Fish out a key with a magnet. And then on the right, you have that same Iron Age urn, digitally shattered and then perfectly rebuilt as a 3D printed puzzle. I mean, together, they just brilliantly show the incredible range of physical puzzle design, from clever, everyday tricks to these stunning technological triumphs. Okay, so here's the plan. First, we're going to break down that simple angling trick. Then, we'll jump over to the museum and see how history itself is being rebuilt as a puzzle. After that, we'll get into the digital workflow that makes all this happen, and we'll wrap it all up by talking about why these hands-on puzzles are so important today.
All right, let's kick things off with a classic. The simple angling trick is just a perfect way to throw a physical task into an escape game, and it gives you a fantastic break from all the purely mental stuff.
The whole idea is just beautifully simple, right? Players have to fish for something using a magnet on a string. Now, think about an escape game that's packed with codes and riddles. This is such a great change of pace. It gets people up and moving, working together in a different way, and that feeling of satisfaction when you finally snag the key, that's just universal. And you can get so creative with this. You could hide a key inside a bottle, maybe tape it to the bottom so you can't just shake it out. Or maybe it's dangling just out of reach from the ceiling, and players have to figure out how to attach their magnet to a long pole. My personal favorite, though, is forcing players to pull something from another room through a tiny grill. It really puts their dexterity to the test. Now listen up, because here's an absolutely crucial pro tip from puzzle designers that can be a real game breaker. Like the slide says, a lot of keys, they're not even magnetic. Can you imagine the frustration if your players do everything right, they get the magnet to the key and nothing happens? The solution is so simple. Just always attach a small iron keyring. It's that one tiny detail that makes a challenge fun instead of just playing impossible. Okay, so now let's go from the DIY workshop to a museum gallery. We're about to see how some really cutting-edge technology is being used to take this fragile piece of history and turn it into a tough, hands-on puzzle that anybody can enjoy. So this is our star, a funerary urn from the late Iron Age, around the 1st century BC. It was discovered near Saltine in the UK, and for centuries people have admired its beautiful designs, but always from a distance, behind glass. For the very first time, technology is about to change all of that. So the first step is to bring this urn into the digital world. They use a high-precision 3D scanner, and every single curve, every little imperfection, every bit of its unique character gets captured as a 3D model. The physical object basically becomes pure data, a perfect digital twin that we can now mess around with without any risk to the real thing. And here it is, the incredible result. That digital model gets transformed back into a physical object, a really durable 3D printed replica that's designed to be taken apart and put back together again. Suddenly, history isn't behind glass anymore. It's literally in your hands. You know, the whole point of this project was to create a really powerful educational tool. The target audience is kids, ages 6 to 12, and the goal is to give them a real taste of what archaeologists actually do. Reassembling fragments to figure out the past. It turns them from just being passive observers into active participants. Now, this is where it gets really interesting when you look at the design choices. This wasn't just a simple printout. They scaled the urn up to make it a pretty good size. The pieces were made 10 millimeters thick, which is perfect for small hands to grab. They decided on about 10 pieces. A challenge, but not overwhelming. And get this, there's a solid core with magnets to hold the pieces in place, kind of like a modern 3D puzzle. Every single detail was thought through to make the experience just right. So, how in the world do you actually get from a 3D scan to a finished puzzle? Let's break down the whole digital workflow that makes it happen. This chart basically shows the entire journey, from artifact to puzzle. It kicks off with digitization, then it moves to the really clever part, digitally creating a fracture pattern to make the puzzle pieces. After that, it's all about getting it ready for the real world, adding spots for magnets, the 3D printing itself, and then all that crucial finishing work before the final assembly.
A key piece of tech that makes this whole thing possible is called constructive solid geometry, or CSG. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like using digital cookie cutters. You can take a complex shape, our urn, and then use a simpler shape to subtract from it or intersect with it, and that's how you carve out the exact puzzle piece you need. It's a really powerful way to slice up a digital object with total precision.
So, how do you decide where to make those digital cuts? Well, the researchers looked at two main ways to do it. The first one, Voronoi tessellation, creates these really clean, geometric, almost cell-like pieces. The second one, hierarchical fracture, is actually designed to copy how pottery really shatters, which gives you more natural, ragged-edged pieces. And right here, you can really see the difference. On the left, that's the clean, geometric Voronoi pattern. But on the right, you see the much more organic and unpredictable hierarchical pattern. Now, for the museum puzzle, they actually went with the simpler Voronoi style, probably because those distinct pieces are just less frustrating for kids to handle. But the workflow is powerful enough to do it either way. And this table, wow, this really drives home the point that all that incredible detail comes with a pretty hefty price tag, at least in terms of computer time. Look at this. To generate puzzle pieces for a simple sphere, something with about 42,000 digital faces, that takes, 18 seconds. No big deal. But for the super high-res scan of the urn, we're talking over 1 million faces, that same process suddenly takes 3.5 hours. It's just a wild reminder of the sheer processing power you need to work with this level of detail.
And the process doesn't just stop when the 3D printer is done. This picture shows the absolutely vital post-processing stage. This means sanding, popping in the magnets, and most importantly, an artist has to hand-paint each piece to match the original artifact. It's just a perfect example of how technology is an amazing tool, but it's that human artistry that gives it the final essential touch of authenticity. Okay, so let's bring this all together. We've seen a simple trick with a magnet, and we've seen a super complex digital fabrication process. So what's the common thread here? Well, at the end of the day, both puzzles share the exact same goal. They exist to create a satisfying, hands-on experience that engages our minds and our bodies in a way that, let's be honest, screens often can't. They connect us to a physical challenge, improving our spatial reasoning and problem-solving skills, whether that's fishing for a simple key or rebuilding a piece of the ancient world. And that really leaves us with one final question. As technology like 3D printing gets easier for everyone to use, where will the next generation of great physical puzzles come from? Will it be from clever tinkering in a workshop or from a sophisticated digital workflow? You know, maybe the most exciting future is one where there's really no difference between the two at all. Thanks for watching.